Amira Adams, also known by Amira the Poet. She's a first-year student at Alverno College. Amira is majoring in communications while minoring in creative writing. She serves as Black Student Alliance president and a ombuds spokesperson for for Alverno student government. All while creating original spoken word and performing around the city of Milwaukee. Amira has a passion for volunteering and uplifting the youth in her community. Amira's mission, summed up in 3 words, is to lead, inspire, and create. Our third panelist is Alejandra Gonzalez. She graduated from Alverno in May of 2020. As a DACA recipient, she has used her education to advocate for immigrant rights in Milwaukee. During her college career, she was named Alverno's Newman Fellow in 2018 and was the recipient of the 2019 Wisconsin Institute for Peace and Conflict Study Students Activists Award. Before working for Boca del de la Fronta. I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong.
Voces de la Frontera.
What she said. She was a member and founded the Youth Empowered in Struggle, yes, chapter at Alverno. As the youth organizing statewide director for Yes, Alejandra hopes to give students in Wisconsin the tools to organize and the ability to make a social impact regardless of immigrant status, social class, race, gender, and sexual orientation. And that is all of our panelists. I don't believe Gabriella is on.
Yeah, do you wanna just read her bio, and then when she pops in, we won't have to, she can just fall in.
Sure. Gabriella Hartlaub is a junior at Ronald Reagan High School in Milwaukee. She serves on the superintendent's student advisory board for MPS for the past 3 years. She is also a member of Reagan's student council, school newspaper, and forensics team. So with that being said, panelists, feel free to answer in any order that you'd like. I will start with the first question. So the first question is, what is your student leadership program?
I can start. So Voces de la Frontera is a advocacy group here in Milwaukee, but we work throughout all of Wisconsin. And we advocate for immigrant rights, workers' rights, and student rights. And in 2004, Youth Empowered in the Struggle was created because we saw that a lot of young students wanted to get involved in advocacy work. So we're essentially, the youth arm of Voces. We are multicultural, and we do grassroots organizing in the city of Milwaukee. We have chapters in Milwaukee, Racine, Madison, and Green Bay. And we focus specifically on student, immigrant, and worker rights.
I can go next. Okay, so my name is Amira Adams again, and before attending Alverno, I decided to take a gap year after graduating high school, and I worked for AmeriCorps for the Boys and Girls Club, and so I taught students about poetry and the arts in different Boys and Girls Clubs. I also was a student, not a student, but a teacher for the Milwaukee Rep, and I taught August Wilson monologues for the August Wilson monologue competition. And then attending Alverno, I am now the Black Student Alliance president. And so we are starting to create programming and helping to make sure that the school is being all inclusive and just creating a more warm environment for all students. And also, I am Amira the Poet, and so I also go around and I do poetry and hold workshops for not only adults, but also young students to just talk about different topics and really have those uncomfortable conversations, as those are very important.
I could go next. So for the past 4 or 5 years, with exception of last year, me and my family, we have been having a inner city Milwaukee-based youth nonprofit football team. We actually we actually have boys from like ages, or girls from ages 6 to 14 that are just needing like an outlet, rather than, because a lot of these kids are from the inner city. You have kids from Galena, you have kids from Ring, and the more like real inner city. And we want to give them like an outlet so they're not bad in school, and we want them to like learn more about how to become a better leader and how to set examples, even though you're not in a good location.
So can you guys expand a little bit more and tell me how the students are leaders in your organization or in the school setting that you guys work in?
Oh, go ahead, Amira.
Okay, I couldn't see who was talking, but I can start this one off. So right now, being a part of ASG, which is Alverno Student Government, has really shown me the voices here at Alverno. We really take pride in being able to hear the concerns from the student body and address those issues, as well as creating different ways to help the community be better. And so we have the president. I'm ombudsperson, so my role is really to hear the concerns from the student body, bring them up to the student government, and then see ways or implement ways on how we can help that student, whatever their specific issue is, or encourage a new way of thinking or new opportunities. Yes, that word is kind of hard. I looked it up before I ran for the position, for sure. But so that's really ways that we hear voices. Also, not just in Alverno, but just around the globe, social media has been a huge outlet and a huge platform for a lot of youth leaders to really spread their voices about issues that they see happening around them and around the world, and really taking their platforms to speak up and to be passionate about the things that they are. So that's another way I see a lot of youth leaders getting their platform and spreading their message.
We're a 501c3 and a 501c4. So that means we do direct services for folks in the community, but we also do election work through our 501c4 Voces de la Frontera Action. So we have a lot of opportunities for our students to kind of step up and take on leadership positions within the organization. It's a lot of hands-on experience. So we've had kids that have been campaign, or not really campaign, but election managers, right? Like they help us map out what the door knocking or the canvassing is going to look like. We've also had kids take on the lead on just different issue campaigns through our 501c3. So whether it's, the legalization of essential workers or DACA recipients or TPS, it's really just the ability to give them those opportunities, right? We are a membership-based organization. So I actually started out as a member of YES when I was at Alverno, and they gave me the tools and the resources to start the chapter there and grow it out. And from there, there's this leadership ladder. If you really make yourself available for more opportunities, they're there. So from there, I was able to apply for the position, and now I am like a leader within the organization on staff. And I always say, I want to give our students the skills to take my job. So that's really the way I think when I am thinking of like the way to run a program, is what can I give them? What tools, what resources can I give them so they have my skills? And then when they go out into the world, they can take on this job.
Ooh, okay. So with us, we have something like not as big as y'all's, but ours is we have actual football captains for each level, because like the whole organization is based off of like levels. You have a pee-wee, you have a junior, you have a major. So for each one we have 2 to 4 boys, and we call them captains, and they're able to lead. We feel like that they're able to lead on and off the field, whether it be in school or even when we do the like team outings and everything. And we feel like that they're mature enough and capable to handle that. We know that they're going to do what they need to do. So yeah, basically, yeah.
I know Amira spoke to this a little bit, but I mean, Amira, feel free to expand some more. But where do you hear student voices as leaders? Not everybody at once.
So within the organization, we have like student representation on our boards, on our C3 and C4 boards, just to ensure that their voices, because it is the adult membership is so big, but the student membership is so important. We need to ensure that their voices are also being heard and that their issues are being taken on. Not to say that like older people don't know what they're doing, but we also don't want to step, on them or on the students' toes. So we give them those positions of power. I think overall, though, like Amira said, social media has become a really big tool for students, for young people. And I'm always like incredibly impressed how they take it on, because I have no idea how to do any of that. So I kind of always just leave it to them. So you guys are younger than me. I'm gonna let you speak more on that.
Well, just kind of to piggyback off of that and what I said earlier, just not only the importance of having the youth at the table, but having their voices actually be heard and taken into consideration. What they say is so important, because we can listen all we want to, but if we don't take action, I think leadership is an action word. And so when you listen and listen, you have to get all of that knowledge and then take action with that. And so I just thought that was so important to say, but also like organizations like LACCS, being able to come on and perform my poetry and to get the feedback and to hear what I have to say, and not only the encouragement, but the actual listening voices who want to take into consideration and use that to apply to their youth is so important. And so considering myself a youth as well in certain groups, I believe our voices are just so important to be heard, because nobody knows what the youth are going through better than the youth. And I just believe that so much, no matter what time period or like what group you're a part of, like nobody knows how much you go through or how whatever situation could be, more than a person that's actually in the situation. So really listening to those voices, whether it is social media, whether it is inviting the youth to the table at meetings, that's just so important to get that youth voice heard.
Oh, okay, you get me. Okay, so I feel like we're able to hear their voices. I would say on and off the field, we have kids where it's like you have kids that are really vocalized. They'll be like, yeah, you did really good at practice, but you could work on this. And like this is coming from like 6-7-year-olds that are just pushing each other to make each other be better. And we even hear from their parents, where parents will come up to us and be like, we can tell a change within my son or my daughter. And even through school, and you can even tell with like their grades and everything. We also offer a tutor. So we're one of the football teams that offer an actual licensed team tutor. So it's just like we want to provide an outlet for them to become better leaders. Even through high school, we have kids who start varsity as a freshman to try, and they're going traveling, playing football, and being those kinds of leaders. Like they'll stay after practice and work out a little bit more extra and things of that. So yes.
Shania, how many students do you guys have participating, and how many girls do you guys have involved as well?
As far as we have more. So for the football, I would say probably around 40 altogether as a rough number, maybe give or take 10, 15. For girls, it's way lower, because so I would say around 10 to 20. I would say around that range.
That's cool. So can you guys speak to me a little bit more about how your environment helped you to become a leader?
Definitely, I can start this one off. I was blessed to have two amazing parents who are just surrounded by leadership opportunities and leadership roles. And so growing up, my dad is just retired after 31 years of service in the military. And having that militant kind of upbringing really instilled in me to be like resilient and to have that leadership qualities, because it's so important to always like excellence and no excuses. Like that was our family motto, excellence and no excuses. And so yeah, so I think it's so important for the adults who surround you and the people who surround you to be as encouraging as possible. And I think instilling those leadership qualities and allowing the youth space to mess up and make mistakes and then mistake and fall forward is a saying that I hear a lot, fall forward. So even if they do fail or do mess up, allowing them to learn from their mistakes, guide them in ways to learn and not just tell them what they did wrong, but allow them to figure out what they did wrong. And yeah, so I used to go to boot camps when I was younger, like little military boot camps, which were fun type boot camps. I wasn't in trouble, but learning how to do like those different tasks and just being able to be allowed to have those leadership opportunities is so important. And also the way I implement those into my workshops. I just recently had a workshop with Eastbrook Academy and I got to speak to their youth. And I think in order to be a leader, you have to really know how to use your words to correct and also to encourage. And so I do this Words Matter pledge with my students. So I'm gonna read it to you really quick. And they repeat after me when I say it. So it's I pledge to use my words to uplift and not to hurt, to encourage and not to discourage, for love and not for hate, because my voice has an impact and my words matter. And so when they hear them, they saying these words over and over again, then it gets internalized. And so having those encouraging words and letting them know that their words do matter and that what they say has an impact on this world helps create better leaders. And I also teach about positive affirmations, how important it is to really talk to yourself, to love yourself, to uplift yourself first, because when you go into those leadership roles, you have to have that confidence and have that ability to not only delegate tasks, but do the tasks yourself. So having those positive affirmations, knowing that your words matter and that your actions matter will only lead to helping other people realize the same thing. And I just saw this quote and it said, leaders don't create followers, leaders create leaders. So we don't lead to have people follow us. We don't lead because we want people to imitate the exact thing we do, but we lead to create new leaders with new ideas, new imaginations, so that they can then bridge the gap to whatever that we're missing ourselves. So I think that's why leadership is so important, because we're creating new leaders.
I was a really late bloomer when it came to leadership. I grew up undocumented, and for the longest time, I just lived in the shadows, and I was really afraid. I went to Milwaukee High School of the Arts, and I had theater as a background that I was able to fall back on to like express myself. But otherwise, I just was never the one that came forward or volunteered first or took on any sort of initiative. So when the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals was passed, this opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It gave me a lot of protections to kind of come out of the shadows. But that's not what inspired me to become a leader. What inspired me was that was only achieved by the youth. It's kind of cheesy, but it's in the title of our organization. They were empowered by their struggle. And without fear, they came forward and fought for something that they felt they really deserved. And that's what inspired me. I was like, well, if they could do it, why can't I? Why am I using this as an excuse? I need to be able to also advocate for myself. I do have that right. So I think that's really what helped me kind of just step forward and take on different leadership roles. And I'm hoping that as I go through like my professional career, I hope to teach our students that too, that your struggle isn't a burden. It's not something that you should let shut out your light, but rather empower you to make at least the way I see it, like my goal is that no other undocumented student should have to live through what I lived through, right? I fight for their rights. And I feel like a lot of our students take that on very personally too. Like, I don't want any other kid from a mixed status family to have to worry about their undocumented parents either. So I'm going to take this on, make it easier for the next person behind me. So I think that it's just really inspirational to see like kids your own age, you know, with your same background taking on these leadership roles. And it's one of those things where it's like representation does matter, right? Because it becomes your own, it becomes your fight. It's not something that's being given to you. It's something that is personal to you and that you can really lead. That was my leadership journey.
As cliche as it may sound, I would say that the boys and girls have actually helped me become a better leader because they see me as their big sister. I'm in college now, and a lot of these kids are elementary or high school. So and a lot of them, they do have siblings, but they may not be leading them down the right path or be the best example. So I also have like parents. I try to talk to their parents also, because my parents run it. So with me being like a junior parent coordinator, I also had to communicate with both the players and their parents, and getting good feedback from them and saying like, I feel like you're a better example, you're a good example for my child, whether it be a girl or a boy. So as I said, like, they see me as their big sister, and that always pushes me to be better. I would say like it gets me focused. I'll be like, well, what will one of the boys do in this situation? What would the boys think if I do this? So I feel like them being there is like, it's like a motivator, the best motivator by far. And so yes.
Hi, Gabriella. Welcome to the panel. So my question that I have for you is, what about your environment helped you to become a leader?
Well, I would have to say, like one of the other panelists said, kind of my upbringing and what my parents always told me. My parents were both leaders in schools, like throughout most of my childhood. And so I feel like just watching from their example of leadership really helped me kind of seek out leadership roles wherever I could and not be afraid to seek out those kind of roles. Like seeing them have their own leadership roles as principals really encouraged me to go seek out running for class president, joining all of the advisory boards that I can, because I saw those like great examples. And they always taught me that like, if you have to be the first one to do something, then do it. Just don't be the last one, but don't be someone who just follows. Just make sure that if you want to do something, that you do it and you don't pay attention to if other people have done it already. And so their leadership meant a lot to me.
Lovely.
If I could say something really quick to that, because she, like as Gabriella just said, that she looked at her parents, and I also did as leaders. I think another important thing to remember is that when the youth look at their adults or the leaders, they look at who they want to lead like and who they don't want to lead like. And so I think that's another motivation for me to be the leader who they want to be like, the leader who they want to lead like, and how like the path they want to follow and how they want to show up and represent themselves in different spaces. So I think because youth are always watching, their eyes are literally always on whoever is in front of that classroom or whoever is driving the bus, whoever is sitting in front of them, whoever looks at them like a leader. And so kids and youth really look at who they want to be like and who they don't want to be like. And there's so many different leadership styles, but to make sure that your leadership style is inclusive to the people who you are leading, because your audience always changes. So I think that's another thing of that self-awareness, to be the leader that they need you to be and not be the leader that you want to be.
With that being said, that leads actually a great segue into the next question that I have for you guys. And Amir spoke about it a little bit already. Can you speak a little bit more about how you define community or how you define your leadership? I know you spoke a lot about how our students are inspired by what they see. So talk to me a little bit more about how you molded your leadership style.
I can start off then. So I would say the way I molded my leadership style is not only about the people around me and the things that I saw, but internally, I think we all get to a point where we have to make a decision. Like, are you going to be a leader or not? And so really making that decision for myself is like, this is what I want to do. I do want to be that leader. And then continuing to work and perfect my craft, whether it be my poetry, whether it be how I show up in front of different people, how I speak, working on my soft skills, how I communicate with different people. I think that all helped me mold my leadership style. And really, like I said, I'm majoring in communication, so you might hear me say communication 15 times, but I just think that communication is so important, and having positive, clear communication can only catapult a leader to be so much better by being able to engage and communicate effectively.
So I'm going to get a little technical kind of with some organizer terms, but one of my favorite leadership models is the snowflake model. So there's different types of leadership models, right? There's like the pyramid where there's the person at the top and then the people underneath. Sometimes there's like the dot in the middle. So like this is the person everybody comes to. I prefer the snowflake, right? So like I may be in the middle, but my job is to, as a leader, is to develop more leaders. So, and they in turn will develop more leaders all the way down until we like create this beautiful connection of leaders that have been impacted. So even though I'm in the middle of the dot, you know, my success really depends on the development of the leadership of others. And that's also how I define community, right? Like, I think that I never would have gotten to where I am without the different communities that have impacted my life or that have been connected in one way or another to get to me. So that includes, you know, the Milwaukee theater community, that includes the Alverno community, that includes the immigrant community, now the organizer community. It all just really has this like beautiful impact that makes this beautiful, unique snowflake. So I'm hoping that, you know, whatever, and I think it falls back to what I originally said, you know, I want to pass on the skills I have to my students so they can take my job. And I hope that they do the same and open the doors for others as well.
Shania?
I would say that going back to what Amira said when she said kids see everything, with us being an inner city team, you play other inner city kids, and that comes with inner city coaches and parents. And I don't know if y'all ever dealt with like inner city people, but at times it may be so hard, and you got to have a whole bunch of self-control and humbleness with yourself. So I feel like knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it, if to say things, I feel like that really helps both me becoming a leader. And I feel like that helps everyone. You becoming a leader is based off of your daily interactions. Okay. Based off your daily interactions. And oh my gosh, I'm getting a little bit distracted. So sorry.
It's okay. We know you at home. It's okay. We all got pets and kids and all types of stuff. Gabriella, go ahead.
This is kind of something that Amira touched on earlier, but I think it's so important to be the leader that you think the people that you're leading need. Like, if you see that the people who you're leading need a certain skill from you that you don't have, I think it's so important to learn from that and to continue to grow. For me, I'm a captain of our school's forensics team, which is speech and debate. And so in that role this year, I have to give some of the younger members of the team feedback on their pieces every week. And something that I've always struggled with is being able to give constructive criticism to people. And so in this role, I had to take what they needed, my criticism, to make their pieces better, and kind of learn more how to do that and grow more as a leader so that I could be the leader that they needed in that period, in that time.
So I know that Gabriella spoke about some of the challenges that she was enduring. So as far as the challenges that you endure, of course, that's normal as a leader. How do you embrace or implement opportunities for student voice and leadership? And anyone can start.
I can kind of speak to this. Another part of leadership is kind of like Gabriella touched on, is knowing your strengths, knowing what you're good at, and knowing when to step aside and let somebody else lead. You don't always have to be in the front of the line. You don't always have to be the one giving direction as a leader, because ultimately we're cultivating and creating new leaders. It's okay to step aside and to be quiet at times. And I think that's another part that's really important, of knowing your strengths. And that's how I personally embrace my challenges. I know what I'm good at. I know what I can improve on. And the things that I can improve on, I watch other people who are good in that specific area and allow them to be the leader in that area, and then learn from their leadership. So that's how I embrace my challenges within leadership, and also implementing opportunities for student voice. The same thing goes, I think, allowing them to show what their strengths are and to let them be in the front, let them lead. And that way they can learn from actually doing something. And so not always teaching or talking to, but allowing them to be the creatives and implement new ideas and be a part of the conversation is how I allow students to have their voice heard. And specifically for like my workshops, I'll allow them to ask the questions, or like we did the repeat after me dialogue, allowing them to really speak and allowing their voices to be heard.
I'll start off by saying I'm a bit of a control freak. And I have a really hard time, like, because of that, I have a hard time, like, with delegation of tasks. And when it comes to projects or campaigns, it's like, I'll just do it. But I had to, and my kids really made it easy. Our students really made it easy. I had so many people open doors for me that now my job as the director of this program, I've really just embraced opening the doors for them, right, and trusting them. I think especially with youth, I work mostly with high school students, some college students. It's hard to trust youth, right? As adults, we there's a little bit of fear, and you kind of just, at least maybe it's just me, I get a little bit overprotective. It's like, I'll just do it for you. But really, when I was able to let go, the things that they did were amazing. And I've just been learning to embrace that, embracing that trust, embracing their abilities, because I feel like that made my abilities a lot better. That made my leadership skills improve. Um, and then just making sure, like, at least within our organization, I think we talked about this before, making sure that they also have a seat at the table, through decision making power, on boards, making sure that their voices are also included. Like, if you have the ability to have a student on your board, or on your committee of some sort, I definitely encourage that, because the perspective that they bring to the table is innovative, and it's needed. Um, and we really just have to give our students that opportunity and trust them, trust their abilities to make things happen.
Okay, I can go. We try to, oh goodness. Okay. What we try to do is that we try to implement player and coaches feedback. Though people may feel like, kids don't need to be heard because I'm the grown up, or like what you said, we said that you get really overprotective about things, like, okay, well, I'll just do it. We want to make them feel heard. Like what Amira said too, we tell our coaches to talk to the kids and not yell at them, because some kids can't take criticism, and you may have kids that'll break down and cry. You may have kids that that'll actually take that in and internalize it and make them feel better. And you also, like, never know, because sometimes kids, when you tell a kid no, and then they're like, why? Now you have to think about why, and it makes you think and reflect for yourself. And that's another thing we want coaches to teach the kids, but we also want kids to teach the coaches. we strive to make kids feel heard and respected, and validated, so that they can be comfortable like with us as an organization, and basically just feel validated with any kind of adult. So then they're not always just shut off from everything because they feel, well, I'm a kid, so yeah, my opinion don't matter.
I have to agree with what everybody else said. I think in overcoming leadership challenges, it's always so important to just get feedback from how many other people that you can, because when you're a leader, you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself on a pedestal and putting yourself above everyone else in the way that you no longer value their opinions, or you won't reach out for their opinions, because everyone's perspectives are always so interesting and always so full of knowledge that it's hard not to always have the resources to overcome challenges when you work with the people around you, because they are always so smart and always so willing to help, that I think it's so important to just always get that outside feedback.
I completely agree with you guys. One thing that I wanted to add that my mother used to always tell me was that I'll never prevent you from failure, but I'll always give you the tools to prevent it. And I think that that's something that I always try and add to my leadership style, because I know that Alejandra talked about it being hard to kind of relinquish that control, and I totally understand how you feel, because I'm like, I don't know if you want to do it right. Let me go ahead and take care of this. But that was just something that I wanted to share with you. This last question is a little long, so please feel free to have me repeat it. I have no problem with that. So what training was offered or required at your organization to ensure that all adults would understand student voices and empowerment? And anybody can jump in.
And within like what training within our organization, it just kind of is expected, which is really cool, like that the voices of our students is valued, which I really appreciated. I will say though that as personally, what really helped me and what I model a lot of my leadership skills through is what I saw at Alverno. Being a student there really helped me grow as a leader, because I had, administration, and I had professors and staff just really trust me with whatever I wanted to do on campus, which is really cool. And I think, since I've taken on this role, I've just been modeling that. That really just boosts the confidence of a student. When a professor is like, okay, sure, you can do that. And they just kind of let you make it happen. You set your goals, you set your logistics, your plan, your work plan. And it's really cool when you have that freedom to move forward with an idea, whether it's an issue campaign, whether it's, I know Alverno does a lot of election work on campus too, which I think is really cool, or whether it's something creative. Just the ability to have trust in students is very, very important.
I can also speak to the training offered, and I'll speak to previous and then to now. So previously, when I was working at AmeriCorps and working with the youth at the Boys and Girls Clubs, I got to take many different trainings, including trauma-informed care, which I think is so important when working with youth, especially youth from diverse backgrounds. Having that trauma-informed care, knowing how to speak to the youth, knowing how to listen, to understand, knowing how to get to eye level, to make that connection with them, and to know that they are being heard, and validating their experiences are super important. Also, different leadership training and on how to lead in different types of leadership, and then carrying all of that knowledge on to where I am now. A part of being on student government, we are working to get microaggression training and implement it within staff and students. We also want to, and these are things that are all in process and will hopefully show up in due time, but have those microaggression workshops so that student org leaders can understand how to be more inclusive within their groups, teachers and students, so we can know what is right to say and what isn't, the type of comments that we are made, having that level of self-awareness within the student body and staff and faculty. And so those are some of the trainings that we are trying to implement now. And also just having that understanding of being all inclusive, and kind of like Alejandra said, with just having that expectation that it's not allowed to be, there's only so much room for certain things to be able to take place. And although it has to be a place where you can teach and learn and allow room for learning and growth, we also have to hold people accountable and to really get that message across that discrimination and that being rude and having these types of attitudes are not welcomed and isn't tolerated. So, and I think that also just having that expectation that it's not tolerated and that you're held to a higher level and accountable will then lead to more leaders and lead to different viewpoints and ideas and more understanding of how we show up and how we communicate with different people.
To piggyback off of what Alejandra said, it's just really expected. We have a lot of our coaches, they come from playing high school, even playing in the same league when they were little and playing in college. So I feel like that they already know like how it feels to not be listened to, so they don't want that to go on for the kids. And I feel like that's really important because, as I said before, you have kids that if they're not used to being heard at home and they're not used to being heard at school, or they're not used to being, when else are they going to be heard? So I feel like the best place is for the football field. Going back to what you said at the beginning, Amira, like at the way beginning, when you said that, goodness gracious, this just slipped my mind. But yes, I feel like, yes, if it should be like just expected. I feel like that, but I feel like that should be all across the board, whether it is football, whether it is at school, anytime.
Gabriella?
I wouldn't say that a lot of people that I've worked with have had like express training, but I feel like we as students in our kind of advocacy work have kind of been the ones training them in a way. Like we have been trying to teach our administration kind of what student voice should look like and how we as students want to be heard in a way that's productive. And the administration has been very receptive to that and making sure that we have opportunities for our voices to be heard. So it's kind of a learning experience on both sides about how we want to do this and how we can have structure in place for future classes at the school to be able to just go right away in and have that kind of channel to the administration to talk about issues they want to talk about.
And picking back off of that really quick, I think also allowing the youth to create the expectation and the space that they are in is so important, because then they understand why that is expected of them. They understand why we had this saying when I used to host the August Wilson monologue competition trainings. We used to have this list and everybody will write something that they expected to happen in the class. So of course, number one was always be respectful, because kids, they are serious about their respect. And I applaud that and I encourage them to be serious about their respect, because I believe regardless of your age, respect is mandatory for everyone. And respect may show up different ways, but respect is always mandatory in my book. So that would be like number one on the list. Number two would probably don't yuck my yum. And that saying is, don't say ill to something that I say yum to, because just because you don't like it, so you wouldn't want me to yuck your yum. So that would be another one. To listen when others are speaking will be third. So allowing the students and the youth to be a part of that decision making and a part of the rules that you all create. They won't look at them as rules, or even if they do, it'll be rules that they created and rules that they put in place, which can also just encourages that leadership and that accountability that they hold themselves to.
Well, first I want to thank the panelists. You guys were amazing. That was my last question. So we are getting ready to wrap up. I do want to leave you guys with this. Just to the panelists, as a leader to other leaders, I believe that our future is in great hands. And it's just really exciting to be able to listen to all of the work that you guys do. And I'm pretty sure that everyone that was listening today feels the same. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Make sure y'all get to connect with each other too. I would love to see the panelists, know each other. I feel like good stuff could come from that. I appreciate y'all.